Well, hello guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the build of the Huracan from Aerocarcontrol and from our North American distributor, OZAERO.ca. We are making some great progress on this aircraft. Stay tuned and we'll dive back into the build. We're getting close to the end. We got the new light housings in stock. All right guys, it's been a while since we left off with the Huracan. We've done some unboxing videos and stuff like that, but we did finally get the light housings back and they have been redesigned. So let's take a look at those light housings and we're gonna continue on with this build. All right, so here are the new light housings. Now, they look visibly, I guess, the same as the previous ones. The only difference is this return angle, I think, is still the same, maybe, but the build-out piece right there, which used to follow this same pattern here, is cut out now. So that solved all of the problems. Now, unfortunately, this kind of sucks, but we do have a bit of a repair to do on the wing. So I started this out last night. I was a little aggressive with this original cutout, but that's fine. So what I need to do is just fill in a little bit of this cutout gap that I took out before. So, like I originally told you guys, when this happened, I share the good with you, the bad with you, and this is just another blip in the road. It's not a big deal. I do have a plan in place for this, and it's gonna work out awesome. So what I did here was lay down some green masking tape on the inside of the wing. You can see it there on both sides. Then I put high sol all the way around here on this edge, which is the one we needed to fill. And then I just took masking tape, laid it over top of here, and then laid it over top this way to just squish it down so it's got the similar profile to the wing. Now we do have to get rid of most of this high sol, but what this allows me to do now is put the template on like that and be able to cut that out. Now we're going to be left with a little bit of high sol on the edge. So we'll see how this fits, but what I'm thinking about doing is either putting a silver pinstripe around this light housing or maybe a black one, but we're going to cut this out and see how that all works. So the high sol is cured. I did this yesterday and wanted to get that cured before I started working on the plane today to show you guys. So step number one for this is going to be cutting this piece out, getting the light fit nicely, and then we have to do some reinforcing on the wing, but we've also got the other wing which has not been cut out yet. All right, so I put the template on there and traced out the inside of the template. So we're going to go a little bit big on grinding this out at first, and then we'll work into this area as we need to, but we want to keep it kind of shy initially to begin with. All right, so we pretty much have this fit perfectly now. We had to go all the way on the other side of the Sharpie line, or making the Sharpie line disappear, because we've got the little rib on the light housing there, and that needs to sit beside the joint or the opening. So we've got this fitting nicely. We've installed the lights back in the housing. Now, one interesting point here, the previous housings did not have this, is Ozzy at OZAERO Custom. He has done these daytime running lights, I think is what you would call them. So they're marked with, this is number 1, so it fits like this. There's actually a little tab there, so you could, we're not, but you could put white LEDs in there. SKYCANDY has white LEDs that would fit in there perfectly. I've tried them. And then your daytime lights could be run separately, but we're not going to be doing that at this point. But we do have that light housing fit nicely. So next thing to do is the reinforcing. So what we're going to do is we're going to run a piece like this and then run a piece at a 90 degree back into this original former, right? So it's going to come like that and then come over 90 degrees, and all that's going to be glued in place. So what we're going to be using for that is 1/8 inch aircraft ply. So fortunately this piece already kind of fits for length here, and we just need to get the height. So I think what I'm going to do is just take my calipers, try and measure this height right here and there, and start off big, and we'll get a piece that fits in there snugly, nicely, without changing the shape of the wing. Obviously you want to be careful with that. And once we have that positioned, then we'll be able to glue that in place. All right guys, so we got the backer reinforcing piece all done. It was actually pretty simple, just eyeballing it. Started off with a 51mm wide piece, sanded it down a little bit. It's got a bit of a taper as it gets to the wingtip. So, but there's a shot inside. So that screw that's in there, that's a nice little tip for you. That's an easy way to make it able to move it and manipulate it. So I did already CA the return piece on there. I just kind of eyeballed that and got it all done up. So this does remove to allow us to be able to glue it and manipulate it. And you can see the angle there as we get towards the tip. Just put little 45s on each angle there, so the return sits against that former. But that's basically ready to glue. So now we know what we're doing on the other wing, but that should be a nice, strong reinforcement. Now we do have about 1/8 of an inch gap top and bottom, and that'll allow some nice glue joints as well. So next thing to do is we're going to get our wiring set up, probably drill 2 holes in here for the lights, and we'll get our wires run through and set up, and then we'll glue this piece in place. All right guys, so we've put the lead here for the SKYCANDY Landing Lights into the wing before we put the reinforcing piece in. So the reason we're using a Castle Creations BEC, which looks like this, so we've got our lead coming in to the BEC, so this is 14 volts, 4-cell LiPo coming in. This is reduced to about 5 volts for the SKYCANDY Landing Lights. So the reason I have these in my aircraft is because I also have some high intensity LEDs that require a 4-cell LiPo. So that's the only reason that my kit includes this stuff, but I just want to mention that just in case you're wondering why. So we've mounted this into the wing. We do have access to that through the servo hatch as well too, if we ever need to get that out. So, and then we've got our 2 leads here to hook the SKYCANDY Landing Lights up to when we install the light housing. So this is all ready to glue now. We've got the 2 holes in there. We've got it fitting nicely. Now I'm not generally a fan of using the nozzles with high sol, but in this case the nozzle's really handy. So I've warmed up the tube a little bit, put a nozzle on there, and this is how we're going to glue that in place. So I'll get that glued, I'll show you guys the final result, and by tomorrow it'll be nice and cured. All right, so next thing while we're waiting on the wing is working on the front plate for the batteries. So I've taken some time and made a template here, and this is kind of what I've come up with. So we're going to have a plate sitting in there. Batteries are going to mount to this plate. We're going to have plugins located here for the batteries because we want the batteries to be removable. So that is assuming though that all the batteries are going in this location. So what we have to do is get ready for the batteries. When we are ready to CFG the plane, then we will put the batteries in there, see where we come out on CFG, and hopefully we can get the batteries installed all in this spot, maybe add a little bit of weight and have a little bit of adjustment room. So if not, we're going to put some of the batteries there and some batteries wherever else they need to go. So with this cut, or with this made, we've marked it on a piece of 1/8 inch aircraft ply, same stuff we used in the wing to do the reinforcement for the lights. And now we'll just cut this out and might line it with the carbon fiber stuff Might just paint it, not sure yet. All right, so made the front tray here and obviously decided to paint it red. Added some lightning holes, but more importantly, those are for Velcro straps to go through to hold the batteries in. Just put multiple options in there. And so that's what's going in the front of the airplane. Reason went with red, obviously it matches the color scheme. I could have put the faux carbon that I usually use on top, but that's just going to add more weight when I don't know if I need the weight or not. So anyways, red will look awesome. All right, so in the last video we left off with the lighting switch. So as I talked about last time, it's pretty simple wiring this switch up. We've got power from the battery coming into terminal 1. We've got the negative from the battery going to terminal 3, and we've got the power out when it's switched coming from terminal 2 or the middle terminal. So negative and the middle terminal come down, and this gets plugged into the power input on the lighting harness, which is right there. Okay, that's our whole harness. And then this long lead here gets wired to the battery. So this is enough wire to go forward in the aircraft, and this is enough wire here to go down to underneath the main tray where all of this mess is going to be held. All right, so it's the next day and our plate is all cured and dry. Really close color match on the red. That's just the red from Tremclad, like Home Depot kind of paint, so that worked out good. So we're going to glue that in place. That's going to be the next step here with Hysol, and after we've glued the front plate in place, then we're going to focus on the light housing and getting that put in place. So I was chatting with my buddy Russell last night and kind of trying to figure out how to the best way to install these light housings. So I'm actually going to use shoe goop to install these light housings. I've got black shoe goop, and it's going to be nice and strong, and if we ever need to get these housings out, we would be able to get the housings out. So I think that's definitely the best option. The alternative is we could figure out a screw mounting system, but it loses the sleekness if you do that. So hi Artemis. Yes, hi buddy. All right, so before we work on the light housing install, we want to make sure they work. So we've plugged the battery into the L1 connector, which is the lights. This battery's fine because we've got our voltage regulator, our Castle Creations BEC located there. And our light housings are awesome. And they both work, of course, which is cool. So anyways, that part is good to go. So we know they work. Next thing we're going to do is work on our install here. So I have a couple ideas with this. I'll share with you in a second. All right, so we've got a couple options here when it comes to the housings. Now, previously I talked about maybe doing a joint here and painting a band to cover up our fill-up piece. But what I'm thinking about doing is putting a tape joint and using the black shoe goop as our joint all the way around. Now I'm not sure how that's going to look. It's going to look kind of like a rubber seal, but the nice thing about that is it would be molded to our actual wing and everything. I think it's going to end up being a good look, so I think I'm going to try that out. That means that I need to put tape on the actual light housing as well too, so we've got a nice joint when it's all said and done, and then we've got to tape off this area as well here. So obviously the downside is that we have to make this area a little bit wider just because I overcut the wing. So we've got to make our joint there about 1/4 of an inch wide. And this side we can make it more narrow if we want. So I'm going to kind of play around with this and I'll see what happens. Okay, so I think the best way to tackle this particular problem is first get the light housing glued in. So I've put the light housing in, held it tight in place, used a Sharpie around the perimeter, and marked off that's going to be the edge of the actual housing itself. So we know where that is, which is good. I've taped off the light housing, cut with an X-Acto knife around the edges. And what we can do now is we can install some shoe goop along the perimeter here, get this glued and taped in place. And then once that's done, then we can worry about what we're going to do around the edge. So if we do end up painting it, obviously we've got the housing already taped off, and that will work good. I don't think we're going to paint it. And if we end up using a bead of shoe goop, we're not trying to have to do two things at one time. So if we're trying to do this perimeter piece and get this glued in at the same time, it's going to be a bit of a pain. So now we can focus on getting this installed, taped down, stuck in place. Once it's cured, then we can focus on how we're going to treat that, that edge. So next thing that I'm going to do is basically get some shoe goop installed along here and get this installed and taped in place. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to use some of the E6000, which is like shoe goop, but a little bit thinner. And that's it. So we want to lay down a bead all along the perimeter here, or as much as possible. And that's going to be the first step. Okay, so we've got a bead all the way around the perimeter. Now we just need to get the wires back installed. So with that done, now the big tricky part here is getting this taped down nice and snug. So having an extra set of hands would be awesome. But we'll do the best that we can. Okay, so this edge is nice and snug. Now what we'll do is we'll focus on getting that edge dropped down. We do have a bit of goop kind of oozing out of the edge here. Now that's fine, especially if we're going to do the black around the perimeter as well. Now what I may do is just put a clamp on this spot until the glue sets, because there's no real good way to actually get this set down. So I think that's probably what I'm going to do. So we're nice and tight on this edge here, we're nice and tight on that edge, and we'll just put a gentle clamp right here to give it some pressure, and that will hold it down. So we'll just use these quick clamps here. Obviously not putting too much pressure on that. We just want to have this top edge here, which was sitting a little bit high, just sunk down. And check the fit of everything else. So from what I can see, the fit looks good. So we're going to let that glue do its thing. And we'll come back in a couple hours and check that out and pull the tape off and see what it looks like. All right, so just undid the clamp and everything stayed down, so figured it was about time to pull the tape off. Now it's been about 6 hours since I had installed this. And there we go. So nice shape on everything, nice fit, nice shape on everything, nice fit. So obviously this right wing is going to be the ugly duckling of the two, but once we get that trim piece or surround figured out, Those are going to look absolutely awesome. So what I'm thinking about doing is basically putting a tape line down. So the tape line is going to be coming out to our furthest point here for our high sol, which we added. I probably could have been a little bit more careful there, and obviously our joint could have been a lot smaller, but it is what it is. And I tried to remove some of the high sol right there, and you can see my touch-up point. So that's going to be our widest point. And I might just do that on this one edge here and there, and everywhere else we'll do a little bit tighter joint, and you'll never notice it. And on the other wing we can basically match it. So all I'm going to do in that case is basically put down a piece of tape where I want it, and then treat this a lot like caulking, where you just basically tool it with your finger and then pull up the tape, and you've got a nice joint left there as well. So I think that should work out good. And of course we're going to leave the tape on the lens until we are done tooling or installing that perimeter piece. All right, so we've made our gap with our masking tape, and you can see the small gap on this side. That's kind of what we're shooting for, and that's what we'll do on the other wing. But on this wing, we are doing a little bit wider gap on that side like I've talked about. So at the end of the day, you really won't see it because you've got black housing with black shoe goop. So it should work out good. On the other housing, we'll do a smaller edge all the way around, and it'll be nice and consistent. So now what we're going to do is we're going to use black goop and trusty bent screwdriver. Now we've done the tape all the way around, but we're just going to do the top side first, and that'll allow us good access. This goop kind of flows too, so that's why I don't want to do all the way around, because it'll if you put it on the underside, it'll kind of flow towards different areas. So just want to be mindful of that as well. You could probably use silicone on here. The only problem is silicone probably won't stick to the paint finish very well, versus the goop will stick quite well. All right, so great time in the video to give a shout out to all of you guys and all of these people that have donated to the shop build fund for the lighter side of RC. Appreciate each and every one of you for donating to the build cause, or cause of building. Anyways, thank you guys for your donations. It is very much appreciated, and thumbs up to you. And honestly guys, I don't know if this is considered a screw up or not, but I actually really like the look of that. The goop settles down nicely, and it's just a nice clean edge. So I'm just going to let this skin over for a little bit. This is should skin over fairly quickly, and then we'll pull the tape off to hopefully have a nice clean edge. But that looks pretty stinking awesome. I actually ended up doing the bottom part as well too, just putting it on my finger and just running it all over the place, and it just settles down and has a nice nice line to it. So I'm gonna wait a little bit, a few minutes here, and then we will peel that tape off. Oh, and I gotta say, I don't consider that a screw up at all. I think I found a new way to finish off edges of lights like that. That is really cool. So I'm going to peel the housing off here, or the cover over the lens, and we'll see the final result. That looks really good. All right guys, I am sold. That looks phenomenal. It looks like a nice rubber flange all the way around. Dang! Times like this, when you discover something new and really stinking cool. Wow. Thumbs up. All right, so just slipped the wing on, just to take a look at how that all works out. And there it is. That looks absolutely awesome. Love those light housings. They are going to look amazing in flight when they're lit up. Absolutely awesome. All right, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to get the housing all wired up for the lights. So we've got the power plugged in right there. We've got an X-bus converter coming from the receiver box right there. So this is programmed to channel 12 and 13, which plugs in to the light harness. So the way I'm going to have this set up is, this is my light switch, so that's an off position. First notch is all the navigations turn on, so the belly beacon and the 2 wingtip lights. Second position, channel 13 will engage, and that will engage the landing lights. So this is all plugged in, quite straightforward. And now what we need to do is we need to put servo ends on all of our leads coming from the lights, and those need to get plugged in to the appropriate marked receptacles. All right, so we've got all of our connectors done up, everything's plugged in where it needs to be. Next thing to do is kind of organize this in the center section so we can put that tray over top of everything. All right, so the light wiring harness has been all set in place, so pretty straightforward. Just use a zip tie, kind of squished it down nicely, and that doesn't interfere with the plate at all. So now we can conceivably get our plate installed here, so not a whole bunch more to do where we need to take this out. I did make my jumper cable as well right there. This powers the nose steering when you're hooking the GS200 up through the X-Bus system. So that plate is all ready to go. I did bolt down the tank as well too, so I had to modify the holder here a little bit, just sand a little bit off to allow the tank to sit in there or allow this to get bolted up. So tank is a very, very nice snug fit now, and that's not going anywhere. All right guys, that is going to be the end of this video. I am really impressed with how these light housings turned out. They are absolutely phenomenal, and we still haven't done the other wing yet. So that one's going to be a little bit nicer than this wing, but both I am very, very impressed with. So we are getting very, very close to the end of the Huracan build. I suspect that there will be one more video in the build series. The next video is going to be wrapping up all of the fuselage wiring and such. We're going to focus on that. We're going to do the C of G on the aircraft, which means that then we can get all the batteries installed. We are going to get the carrier system set up as well too, which is really, really slick. You guys will definitely like that. It is a really cool system that we're using to transport this aircraft. So lots going to be happening in the next video. Hopefully we can fit it all into one video, but this is the final video before the Christmas season. So if you celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas to you. Thank you for all your support over the past couple of years. It's been really cool to see the channel grow and see how things have progressed. Again, thank you to the supporters that have sent some funds for the shop build. Thank you guys for watching my videos. If you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button down below. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. Enjoy your time with your family, friends, whoever you're spending time with, and we'll see you in the next video.